Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Dr. Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new team therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. His latest book, Feeling Great, contains powerful new techniques that make rapid recovery possible for many people struggling with depression and anxiety. Dr. Burns is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, Sirius David, and welcome to all of our listeners around the world, around the country, throughout the galaxy. This is the Feeling Good podcast, and it is episode 469.
Can I make an important announcement?
You may.
If you noticed the Hello Rhonda was less enthusiastic, it's because a few in our survey, podcast fans said they thought it was silly and David should be more serious. So that was the serious version, and you can let us know which one you prefer, or if you prefer some third alternative we haven't thought of. That's all.
Serious, silly, a third alternative. Today we have a special guest. She's the marketer at the Feeling Great app, Sevde. And Sevde and David, the teeny tiny bit of editing from me, teeny tiny contribution, created a survey that was passed out to listeners of this Feeling Good podcast. And we are going to listen to the results and talk about the results. So I pass it on to you, Sevde and David. Okay.
All righty. So Sevde, so we just want to find out who you folks are. This is the third survey we've done in the history of the Feeling Good podcast. And we want to find out who you are and what you like and what you dislike and what you'd like to see more of and what you'd like to see less of. And the results, Sevde put together this beautiful survey, and we got the results yesterday, and she analyzed it really quickly with beautiful graphs and just did a kick-ass job on it. And we've enjoyed going through it, and I think you'll enjoy it too.
Well, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Rhonda and David, on the podcast. It's a pleasure, an honor to be part of it. I was really excited to see the feedback from your listeners and how thoughtful and detailed the feedback was. So excited to go over it with you. Where should we start, David?
Just start like what we did before the podcast. Just start up at the top with who they are and how many are mental health professionals and gender split and ages, and then go into the specific areas. I think that would be perfect.
Okay, awesome. So we got 183 responses so far from podcast listeners, so close to 200. And about a quarter of them are mental health professionals, and the majority, 72%, are general audience. So people like me, just listening to the podcast to work on their own emotional problems and also help loved ones. So geographically, we saw that about 57% were based in the U.S. and 43% were international, which I think is just so incredible, just to see how globally helpful the podcast has been and how we have different voices from all around the world, different people just listening to it. And in terms of gender, it was quite relatively balanced, I would say. So a little over 50% women and 47% men and 1% non-binary. Age distribution was a really interesting part of the survey. We saw that actually the majority of the listeners were 50 or older. So the biggest age segment is 51 to 70 years old. 17% of the listeners were 71 years old or older.
Oh, really? My goodness. I had no idea. That is illuminating, Sevde.
Yeah,
So 66, 2/3 are over 50 years old.
exactly. Yeah. And there was no one under 20 filling out the survey, and a very small segment. So about 5% of the listeners are between 21 and 30 years old.
Between 21 and 30, what percentage is that?
5%.
Only 5%. Wow. 21 to 30 is 5%. Goodness gracious. I wonder why there's so many elderly people, Rhonda.
Yeah, it's curious, isn't it?
Yeah. They must be boring, these old people.
Well, if I was going to guess, I'd think that younger people are more interested in technology and listening to podcasts, but it's actually the opposite.
Well, at least our podcast, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It must be you, because my fans are all really
I
young.
know, it's got to be me.
It's one thing is, we've seen the length of the episodes come up and some of the constructive feedback, which we'll go over. I think younger generations are just have shorter attention span too, which might be one reason. Let's see. Another interesting question was, why do people listen to the podcast? And we provided some options, and the top category was to improve my own emotional well-being. So 87% of the respondents said they're just listening to it to improve their own mood issues and feel better day to day. And the second category is learning therapy techniques, 58% of the group.
Okay, so what percentage to improve my emotional well-being?
87%.
Oh, 87%. So what that means is that only a quarter are shrinks, but 87% want to improve emotional well-being. So a lot of the people in that category are shrinks, that the shrinks are coming on both to learn therapy techniques and to help their own emotional well-being. And in our previous survey, which was probably 4 or 5 years ago, it was the same thing, except we spelled it out. And all of the many of the therapists are looking to learn techniques then too, but all of them also had the desire to improve their own mental health, and of course the general audience that's huge as well. But I think that one take home that has remained is that the therapists are trying to learn new techniques and to improve their clinical skills, but also they're all looking for help. And in a lot of our workshops, we do surveys just recently where we have mainly therapists in the audience. And how many of you sometimes feel anxious and inadequate, like you're not good enough, and then over over 90% of the hands always go up on that question, and we see that in our Tuesday training group at Stanford as well. Just a tremendous amount of feeling of inadequacy and not being good enough, and anxiety and performance anxiety and social anxiety among therapists. And they often, or at least they used to, when I was young, I loved these New Yorker cartoons of shrinks, neurotic shrinks, and they were all really funny. In fact, when I had my practice in Philadelphia, I kept a notebook of psychiatric cartoons, a lot of them from the New Yorker, but that was the theme, and it's really kind of a valid theme based on our research, and I think a lot of people are drawn to the helping profession to become a clinical social worker or some type of counselor or shrink or psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, and that the pull there is to try to heal myself.
Absolutely. I think that's a great insight. And as you were talking, David, I thought of this quote that we received in the survey. It's about this person who wrote, "I fired my therapist and do the work from the podcast that they suggest because I found it more powerful. I've been healing myself just by the podcast and David's books and his app, which is amazing and helping me deal with my mental health. Thank you so much. I love and highly recommend the work you do."
Oh, thank you for that. That's great to hear because that's what we have in mind, and it just reinforcing to see that's actually happening with quite a few people.
And also, it's interesting because only 28% of the people that responded to the survey are mental health professionals, and yet close to 60% of people who gave the reason why they listen is that they want to learn therapy techniques. So it seems everybody wants to improve their own emotional well-being, and both shrinks and the general public want to learn therapy techniques. Perhaps.
Well, that's true too. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's absolutely right.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And actually, in that vein, we asked about the favorite episode formats from the audience, and the top episode format that they liked was how to do team techniques. So how to do 5 secrets of effective communication or externalization of voices or the other awesome techniques that people can just listen to an episode and apply it to their daily lives.
Cool.
What were the other favorite topics?
The second one was treating specific problems, particularly those involving David, Rhonda, and Matt.
We have so many.
Yeah, you're right. But that would be like OCD or social anxiety or a troubled relationship.
Yeah. And the third one was the Ask David Q&A episodes.
Nice.
Oh, okay.
And then we got some interesting feedback about the live work too. One person said live work, the live therapy sessions are the only type of episodes that make me understand it at a gut level, which I think is valuable feedback. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true for everyone.
And I think that the live work is, our best teaching mechanism. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I have that hunch for that reason. You can see it at the gut level, see it working and why and how it works.
Mm-hmm.
We also asked the audience, what emotional problems are you the most interested in? And I think there were some predictable, but also some interesting findings from that. So the top 2 categories were anxiety and depression, as we would predict, anxiety having a little bit of a higher percentage. So about 73% said they are interested in anxiety, and 68% are interested in depression. Followed closely by personal relationship issues. So those are the top 3.
Something else that in the last category is what's the favorite parts of the episode. You forgot to say that. I adore David and Rhonda. Listening to them chat makes me smile.
Yes, definitely. That's a great quote.
Yeah, that's right. I think there's a lot of that kind of feedback, Rhonda. People love our interaction, and they love you because of your humor, your charm, your vulnerability, your genuineness, your down-to-earthness.
Oh, that is so sweet of you to say, David. And I haven't read them all, but I am 100% certain that they love you for your brilliance and your inspiration and your motivation.
That also.
And but also what people like are real examples that reinforce the techniques.
Yeah,
real life examples, not like made up things or abstract.
Yeah. That's what I love most about team, and what I loved with the original cognitive therapy too, that it's specific techniques for specific problems that really work. Because when I was a resident, it was all the sessions we had discussing cases. It was just vague bullshit. There was never any thought that we were going to get people better. It was just speculation about why won't this fellow get out of his home and become more independent or something like that.
There was really no thought about people getting better? Why people weren't getting better?
There was thought about it. It never happened. No one had the skills or or methods to make it happen, or even to think about it. That's a topic for another day, and bring out my cynicism. But I think the whole field, as you know, is screwed over, and well, I won't say this, but just filled with people who don't know critical thinking and who just are satisfied with horsepucky.
Well said.
So continuing on the emotional problems that they're interested in, David and I were looking at earlier this morning and saw that insomnia and dating seem to be the least popular topics, or the emotional problems that listeners are interested in. What do you think about that? Most popular are anxiety, depression, personal relationships, and then least popular are insomnia and dating.
Really interesting.
The low interest in dating has to do with the fact that 90% of our patients are more than 80 years old.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be an issue for that demographic, so that makes sense.
Our next episode, by the way, folks, is going to be how to score if you live in an old folks home. Flirting techniques, pickup techniques that really work.
Yeah, my friends and I are talking about organizing a old folks home for deadheads, and that we'll have Grateful Dead music piped in instead of Muzak, and we'll be dancing.
Awesome.
And now we'll have dating techniques for the elderly, right? For the geriatric crowd.
Yeah. And the great thing, no, I was going to make a demented joke, but won't.
Now you have to, because you said it.
Yeah. Well, I used to, when I was working in the Stanford inpatient unit, when I helped to create the daily cognitive therapy group. For a while, they had on the inpatient unit elderly people, and some of them were just, absolutely demented. And I used to think to myself, they're really easy to treat because you can teach them exactly the same thing every day, and it'll seem new and different. It's kind of cruel, but it's true in a way. And the sad part of it is that they come to a group and get a real breakthrough, but then have trouble remembering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's the same with the ECT, that they come to the group and have a tremendous inpatient group psychotherapy, get a breakthrough, then go out and get their daily ECT treatment. And then they couldn't remember anything about what they learned in group. And to my way of thinking, the ECTs might, for some of them, been actually impairing their recovery rather than facilitating it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's also interesting that insomnia was one of the least selected topics.
Yeah, I can't understand that one because sometimes, well, I guess when you get older, you have less need for sleep. So you wake up earlier.
But it's a complaint that people have throughout their life, I think. And especially because the interest in anxiety is so high, 73%. And oftentimes insomnia is a byproduct of anxiety, and they're connected.
You're right. What was the percent on anxiety?
73.2%. Of people said
73 wanted help with anxiety on the topics of interest.
Yes,
73%. What is the percent on insomnia?
Insomnia is only 32%.
Oh, 32%. Yeah, and then what's dating?
24%.
24%. Yeah. Well. A third of our users want more sessions on insomnia. That's not insignificant, but it would have to be a really good session. Otherwise, 2/3 of the people would be bored and not interested.
Right. Okay.
Onward and upward, Sevde.
Awesome. Asking people, how helpful has the podcast been to you emotionally? We got an 8.5 out of 10 on average. About 44% of people said that it was 10 out of 10 helpful to them emotionally. So I thought that was really insightful.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting. I bet they wouldn't rate their therapy that high.
Well, it depends on whether they have a team therapist or not.
Do we have how long they've been listeners and all of that data, or did you skip it, Sevda?
We have it. Yeah, it's a little below. So about 65% have been listening to it for several years. Pretty loyal listeners we have over here.
Mm-hmm.
26% have been listening to it for several months.
65% have been listening several years, and then 26% have been listening for less time.
We also have a several weeks question. So people who have been listening to it for several weeks, which is the newer segment, and that's 8%.
Okay, 8%.
Mm-hmm.
Then it makes it look like most of our users have been using for many years.
Yeah, that's the majority.
Do you remember that we saw that years ago, Rhonda?
Yes.
And I find that amazing.
That's flattering, really.
Thank you, users, for being so loyal.
Mm-hmm. But what comes first? Maybe people who are really loyal are the people that are motivated to fill out the survey. And people who've only been listening for weeks or months may not have the inclination to fill out the survey. So there may be more people who are more recent listeners, but they didn't fill out the survey.
Yeah, I think that's also a shortcoming of any kind of survey, right? But if you're listening to this and you haven't filled out the survey, this is just a call out that you can go to feelinggood.com and sign up for David's email list, so you get to hear about these kinds of little research that we do, and we can count your opinions and data as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us some more cool stuff.
So a little bit more numbers, and then we'll get to some of the strengths and weaknesses of the podcast part.
The juicy stuff.
The juicy stuff.
The scandalous stuff.
Yeah, there's some scandalous stuff. We'll see. No. Okay, so we asked what we call in marketing the Net Promoter Score, which is basically how likely are you to recommend the podcast to someone? And we just find that it's very illuminating to see how the podcast is doing. And about 74%, so about, let's say, 3 out of 4 listeners gave it a 9 or 10 out of 10, which is amazing. And then we have 18% that gave it a 7 or 8 out of 10. So a little bit room for improvement. And the smaller segment, 8%, gave it 6 or lower, which I think is helpful for us to know, because they had some really awesome qualitative feedback, some opinions on how we can make the podcast better.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay, awesome. Moving on to what listeners love, what listeners don't like as much. So let's start with the positive stuff. Some of the top themes that came up and what people love is the practical and the applicable techniques that they learn. People really love both of you as co-hosts, and David, particularly your voice, Rhonda, your laughter and your kindness, and just a depth of experience that you and the guests bring. Warmth and authenticity were aspects of the podcast that were noted a lot. I think you both come across as just so sincere and so dedicated. Let's see. Some quotes that I really like here is someone called the podcast just full of liberating insights.
Liberating insights. Nice.
Yeah. As a listener myself, I personally relate to it because I think there is something really freeing about being able to solve your own problems after just, listening to an episode, like learning one insightful technique.
Yeah, cool.
Something else that stood out is someone saying, "It brings me comfort each week. I struggle with anxiety and this is my go-to."
Nice. Wow.
Yeah. I love David and Rhonda's relationship. It's full of lightness and depth, which is such a great,
Great
mix.
combo.
Yeah, it's a great combo. Someone also said, "It always makes common sense."
Mm.
And I think that just speaks to how accessible the content is. Like how you both just simplify some of the sophisticated or complex concepts and just make them easy to understand.
Wow.
You know why there's so many hard to understand complex concepts in the mental health area?
Why?
Because we don't know shit. So people use big words to try to make things sound impressive when they could use small words and say what they're really talking about. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very true. Physicists don't intentionally use big words when they try to explain about the universe. They want people to understand it because they've got something to say.
That is funny. No, jargon can be really alienating, and it's a big barrier to learning. So I think we need more mental health content and, daily language.
Yeah, Rhonda, or the Buddha said this 2,500 years ago, that jargon could be not only alienating, but off-putting.
Definitely.
Shitty. He added that.
Mm-hmm. He definitely did.
Looking at some of the other categories of strengths, David, your insights tend to be a fan favorite. There's a lot of praise around the helpful tips that you give. Someone wrote, David is so lovable and teaches in a very down-to-earth way. So that was awesome. I think just the wisdom, the communication style, all of those work really well. And the other category that people pointed out is how the podcast gives these free tools that are not very much like, promo or like trying to sell something, has a hidden agenda. Someone wrote that the podcast gives free and full and comprehensive access to Team CBT. There is no catch, no hidden agenda to sell something, only normal and good self-advertising. There's no being vague so that one has to buy a product, which doesn't even work. And mostly Team CBT works.
Yeah. Then I can't tell you folks how much I appreciate that, because that's what we've been doing here. And to have people pick up on it, you don't know how much that means to me, and I'm sure to you too, Rhonda.
Definitely. And I really agree that your insights, David, are a key component to the success of the podcast. Yeah. When we practice 5 secrets or when we practice any other technique, and I know there are lots of times I'm fuddling through, and then you come through with your genius insights and clear and clarifying responses. It's really helpful. I listen to the podcast over and over again sometimes to write down what you've said, so that I can have it in my toolbox. Yeah.
But I like this no promos, no catches. And I did want to mention that in conjunction with today's show, if you order the premium version of the podcast within 15 minutes of the end of the show, you can get the premium for only $299. That has the secret techniques that we never reveal on the podcast.
Right. And we don't advertise. So people just get to the pleasure of listening to the podcast without promotions, advertising. That's so annoying.
Yeah.
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 And $299 to get the secret tools.
I wanted to say some little tubes of water, and we call it memory and joy water. In case you'd want to order some of that, and that's only $18.99, and it comes from Lourdes, and so a lot of people get miracles after taking a drink.
Wow!
And if you don't, we also send a little, a little ounce of whiskey with it. You can try that.
You have to somehow prove you're 21 to get the little shots of whiskey.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of praise to read here, but something else that I want to read is someone wrote, the podcast is direct and no BS. You have techniques that work. And that's also really rare to find.
Yeah.
That's nice.
A lot of people commented on just the insights and the learning, how it's kind of a source of emotional support for a lot of people, especially seeing both of your relationship live and with the guests and with Matt, who joins as well. Someone wrote, I love Rhonda's vulnerability, honesty, kindness, and laughter. And that kept coming up. And
is there
how
more about
safe
David? That's so true. Your vulnerability that you've shown from the very first time you were the host. We did, social anxiety, and you were. Yeah, it was just awesome. It was live work with Rhonda,
Right.
And you show a lot of vulnerability. You give examples when you use the 5 secrets, but it backfired because you were making errors and then role play it. And you've been just very open and gracious about that. And that's so important for people to identify with Rhonda, with you as a real human being like them.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I guess I make so many mistakes that it makes it more comfortable for people to practice and make mistakes on their own and learn from their own failures. Yeah.
That's the idea of joyous failure, but you can say it and people don't know what it means. Goes in one ear and out the other. Say, oh, that's great. Yeah, I can fail joyously, but their heart isn't in it. And then when you model that with laughter and grace, it's a pretty beautiful thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I can't agree more. I think as people also in the mental health field, it's so important for you all to be vulnerable and to be open and destigmatize these conversations and this crucial work. So thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. We're so lucky to have you too, Sevde.
Oh, thank you. I'm lucky to be here. But okay, well, maybe you might be a little less grateful for this because I'll get to the constructive feedback part. So, okay, we'll talk about what listeners like least. But obviously, I'm joking here because I think we really, really value constructive feedback and super thankful to you all for giving these ideas to make things better.
If it's about Rhonda.
There is a criticism about Rhonda.
All right, let's dive in. So some top themes in the critiques were some people just talked about the repetition of certain stories that come up. And it's probably because a lot of the listeners are just such loyal, longtime listeners that they maybe heard, some of the stories a few years ago. And when it's repeated, it doesn't feel like the freshest content. And a lot of people noted the length, just very long episodes, and sometimes some of the chit chat that maybe makes the episodes a little bit diluted, even though that's also appreciated as part of the warmth of the episodes. And then some audio quality issues, which we'll talk about. To read some quotes, someone wrote, some episodes feel too long or lack cadence.
What does cadence mean exactly here?
I would think of it as the pacing. So maybe spending too little time on one aspect of the bigger topic and then too much time on another aspect. I think of it as an imbalance of the depth in which you go in every section. How do you
it's not being
interpret that?
To provide a product in a limited period of time that balances, the different things you want to include. We're kind of freestyle, and that's part of the charm, but also one of the liabilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. So let's see. Yeah, I can go into the audio quality. So I think this is actually a technical fix that we can easily implement whenever someone is typing, the keyboard typing, or someone is kind of working with papers. It ends up affecting the sound quality on the other side a lot. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yes, that's my bad. I used to take notes, and I didn't realize that you could hear the typing until we got feedback. So I've stopped taking notes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it either because I'd never heard it for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I apologize for that.
No worries. I mean, production is just so hard.
Because I thought if I was typing on my laptop, you wouldn't be able to hear it since I have the headphones on, but you can hear it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The microphone can hear it.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing is just the medium in which the listeners listen to this, right? So when you pull it up on, let's say, Apple Podcasts and put on your headphones, the sound is just, the background noise can be really amplified. So I can see how that can be distracting for a lot of listeners.
Oh, interesting. Also, I have a directional microphone. So when the cleaning people come in here, with their vacuum cleaners, people can't hear it. It's amazing.
Really?
This goes right, is pointing right at my mouth. And when they're outside, just with their blowers and mowers and, even right next to the windows. And to me, it's just roaring. And then people can't hear it because the microphone, the cone is very, very narrow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You learn so much about production on this side of things. But so about the length of the episodes, someone wrote some episodes are a bit too lengthy and not focused. And I think it's just more of the focus that, David, you were also talking about a little earlier, staying on track. Yeah, the discipline that you mentioned. Some people noted the greeting of the funny kind of hello, Rhonda part as a little bit overly silly. So that was a part of the feedback.
So let us know again today, because I'm willing to be overly silly. I think we need more silly, but people see me as some psychiatrist, board certified psychiatrist. Taught at Harvard. Don't be silly, guy. That type of thing. But if it's just too off-putting to too many people, we stopped it today, and we can certainly stop it. We're not in love with it, but I think sometimes we take ourselves too seriously. But we've been doing that hello Rhonda for years now, so maybe it's time for something new. Like, how about this? Hello, Rhonda.
Meow. Or you could be one of your cats. Meow, Rhonda.
Yeah. Candy, cat candy. When I ask the cat, she's very focused on getting her cat candy from her daddy every day. And she waits near the kitchen when I'm coming out of the bedroom and make sure that I get diverted into the kitchen to pull her little bag of cat candy out. And when I'm going in there, I say, "Do you want your cat candy?" And she says, "Yes." Like and she really says yes.
You have well-trained cats.
That we're not supposed to do. So let's get back on schedule here.
Okay.
Yes, trying to stay focused. So it was actually super interesting to see mixed feedback on the Ask David episodes. There were split opinions. Some people were big fans and wanted more, and some people actually said they skipped those episodes. Curious what you think about that.
Well, you had heard that from people that they weren't liking the Ask Davids and brought it to my attention some time back, about a year ago, Rhonda. And then apparently some people really like them.
Well, I wonder if it fits in with some of the other things. If it's repetitive material that we've answered before, that might be a little bit boring if you've heard the same.
Well, that could be, Rhonda. That's good thinking.
But also, I think what people like is real live demonstrations. I'm wondering if somebody asks us, like we did our last Ask David that came out on September 15th. And then Matt and I and you, David, we did some role plays, and it became a lot more dynamic. And I think those can come up more frequently in the Ask David episodes.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Rhonda.
And I actually just looked at the data now. So basically someone wrote, the Ask David and the Q&A episodes are cool, but they're mostly for entertainment. I rarely get a change in mood after.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Whereas someone else wrote, I love the banter between the three of you. I have learned so much from the Ask Davids over the years because of those stories David tells, along with the listening and thoughts of Rhonda and Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's quite, it's great to see these open and diverse set of perspectives on it.
Yeah.
And then you kindly skipped one comment about what listeners like least, and that's that Rhonda always doubts herself. It's charming, but creates a weird dynamic. And I want to say that's true. I do frequently doubt myself, and especially because here I am with Matt May, who we've all said over and over is one of the best, or if not the best, he and Jill therapists in, practically the universe. And David Burns, who is the most amazing human being and
narcissistic to boot.
Well, we've done a good job of hiding that mostly. And so it's very hard to put myself in the category with the two of you, but I do try.
Yeah.
Here, I'm just this average ho-de-do person therapist in the company of geniuses. So I'll work harder on that.
It's kind of you to say that. We got you fooled, Rhonda, but don't change. I love you the way you are.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going over the constructive feedback. And honestly, those were the main buckets. And there are obviously more detailed, smaller kind of feedback that we're taking into consideration, but just to give an overview. And then there was some more technical marketing feedback, like refreshing the branding on YouTube, episode images, and things like that, which we'll look into.
Like the pictures that you use?
Yeah, like the thumbnails for the YouTube videos, just more of the marketing collateral.
Yeah, okay. like Datsun turned into Nissan. That was rebranding, right? Datsun, the automobile. Oh, they used to be called Datsuns not long ago, and it just rebranded itself as Nissan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They just changed their name.
Yeah. So, I guess like connecting it back to the podcast, David, what you were saying, maybe the beginning, the greeting worked for years, but maybe it's time for a change now, kind of like a little refresh. So, I like that idea.
Yeah, that hurts, Sevde.
Sure, I thought this was a no BS space.
Let's get something cool and new and awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So more on what listeners want more of. We asked about topics they're interested in for future shows. And the top topic was self-defeating beliefs like perfectionism or love addiction or achievement addiction, which I also find fascinating.
Oh. Yeah.
About 77% were interested in that.
Sweet.
Okay, some other topics, resistance and motivation, cognitive distortions. There's a lot of interest for those as well. People also entered their own ideas for topics. Some people asked for more on habits and addictions. Someone brought up the idea of applying 5 secrets of effective communication with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about death, grief, or estrangement, or diving into OCD and emotophobia, and more of the hidden emotion model.
So estrangement, OCD, and hidden emotion model?
Yeah, those were some of the one-off ideas that came from the audience, apart from the categories we had for them. So it was insightful.
I'd love to talk more about death and grief and estrangement. Yeah.
Death and grief?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And estrangement, I imagine estrangement is someone might be talking about a child who refuses a relationship with their parent.
Yeah.
Or co-parents who refuse to speak to each other, even though they have to maintain a relationship with each other.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. And I think with all of those topics, if we have a real case, to disguise the identity, but to bring it out, I think that adds a lot. And so, and again, it's no longer a head trip, and can also maybe practice some of the techniques that are being described.
Yep.
Okay, so those were the main kind of areas of feedback. And something else that we also asked about was whether people have used the Feeling Great app out of our listeners. And we saw that actually the majority used the Feeling Great app, but of course the rest, because we currently do not have it available internationally. We're working on it, but we don't have it yet. Naturally answered no for that.
Most of our listeners in the U.S. have tried the Feeling Great app. 58 of the survey respondents said that they'd used the Feeling Great app. 60% are in the United States, right?
Exactly. So 57% United States, yeah.
60 minus 58 is only, 2%. See, the only people who could answer yes is the people in the United States.
Yeah.
And so it means that of the people, of our app listeners in the United States, like over 90%, maybe 98 or 99% have tried the app. And that to me was shocking and mind-blowing. I had no idea.
I think that just really speaks to the loyalty of our listeners. And I think it was especially great to see that people don't think it's promotion focused and that it's very genuine and help focused. And the app is one of the currently free resources that you all talk about sometimes. So yeah, I thought that was really great.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for that. And again, this is something that I had no idea about. If these data are correct, if we're interpreting them correctly, and if the sample isn't radically biased, but how biased could it be? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great. The only thing is, what Rhonda was pointing out earlier is, where we promoted the survey, right? Like people who filled it out are already part of your email list, or I posted it on our Feeling Great YouTube channel. So in that sense, it makes sense that this is a really loyal and supportive and positive audience. But I also think it probably speaks to the trends in the bigger pool of listeners.
Oh yeah. This was 50. Our survey was people on my emailing lists who were then also podcast listeners, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that could affect the numbers a little bit. It's hard to figure that out, and you could solve it mathematically or get more data on it. But it sure sounds like from this, like an awful lot of the people, at least in this survey, have tried the app.
One of the things that people said is that we're to pay attention to the length of the podcast, and we're almost at an hour. So let's honor what people said and say, thank you so much for responding to the survey. And thank you, David and Sevde, for creating it, and Sevde for collating all the data and explaining it to us. We take all this stuff really seriously, just like feedback forms at the beginning and end of every therapy and training session. So really appreciate this data, and moving forward, we'll take into...
Before we close off, Rhonda, I have one last story I'd like to share. And,
Okay.
And it's a bit of a long one, but it's really wonderful. And I've only told it 3 times previously on the podcast.
Nice. Okay. David, you want to say bye?
Well, thank you, Sevde. You were just tremendous in creating and getting that data figured out so quickly. And thank you, Rhonda, for your, as usual, lovely, gracious and charming and laughing and joyous self, particularly your quick rebound from your recent terrifying health episode. And it's so great to have you back being Rhonda again.
Thank you, David. And thank you for being 100% yourself 100% of the time. Your genius and humor and motivation is the heart of this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Bye, everyone. Love you all.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, the director of the Feeling Great Therapy Center. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.